What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast. This is Bill Allen. On today's show, we're talking about one of my favorite topics. It's private money. We start with mindset. We jump into private money, a ton of tips and tricks and strategies about raising private money. Even if you've never raised any before, you've raised millions. I've got Jay Conner on the podcast. He's become recently a really good friend of mine, is amazing in this industry, in this space, been doing it for a very long time. And I know you're going to get a lot out of this, so stay tuned.
My name is Bill Allen, and I'm the leader of a group of elite house flippers and wholesalers called Seven Figure Flipping. We don't brag or show off our success, but instead let integrity and stewardship be our guide. We are dedicated to helping people unlock the freedom they desperately need. If you ask other real estate investors, they will say to keep your secrets quiet. But we believe in abundance, not scarcity, and that's why we are the elite. We are Seven Figure Flipping, and this podcast is our playbook.
Jay, I am excited to talk to you today. I have a question for you right now. You have a mastermind, you have other real estate investors that you coach and train and you work with. What is the thing that's stopping them from reaching their capabilities today? Like, what's the one thing today in June 2024 that's stopping them from reaching the goals that they want to achieve?
Great question, Bill. Well, here's the answer. It's the real estate between their ears that's stopping them from reaching. And it's always the mindset. And so I preach it all the time. And I tell people, the first thing you got to do is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So when it comes to raising private money or whatever it is that's in real estate, you just have to take action on it and break through. I mean, it's very natural to be fearful. I mean, I remember, Bill, years ago, back in February of 2009, I remember the very first time that I talked with a potential private lender to fund my deals, and I was scared to death. But by the way, I wasn't asking for money. I wasn't pitching a deal. I was actually very, very simply and easily just asking for his help to spread the word that I've now opened up my real estate investing business and I'm paying insane high rates of returns. But I took action in spite of that fear. And so that's the number one thing. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you really want to get good at something, just go screw it up really good. Ask me how I know that. Because I screwed it up really good. I mean, when I started out in real estate investing, I messed it up. But how do you get good at something? You learn from your mistakes and you just get better at it. And you do it anyway.
How'd you get comfortable doing that? Like in the beginning, like you said, comfortably uncomfortable. But how did you actually, if you think back to where you got started, how did you take that leap? Like, what was holding you back? And what was the push that you got or that you needed at that time? Do you remember?
Well, the push was necessity. I mean, I had a great big motivator, and that was, the first 6 years that I was investing in real estate, I used traditional institutional funding from 2003 to January 2009. That's all I knew to do was go to the local bank, get on my hands and knees, let the banker look up my skirt and my personal assets and my financial statement, and pull credit and all that and apply and fill out applications and get on my hands and knees and say, please fund my deal. That's all I knew to do. And then, so here's my need. Here's my motivation. In January of 2009, after being in the business for 6 years, I had 2 deals under contract, Bill. And I called my banker. His name was Steve. And I told him about these 2 deals that I'd had under contract. And Steve and I mean, he had funded a ton of deals for me in those first 6 years. And I learned on that telephone conversation that my line of credit had been shut down with no notice. My first thought was, well, that was sort of rude not to let me know you've closed my line of credit. And I said to Steve, Bill, I said, Steve, what do you mean you've closed my line of credit with no notice? He says, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, Steve, but now you have given me a global financial crisis and I can't fund these 2 deals. So that's when I hung up the phone, Bill, and I asked myself a very, very important question. And I want to share this question with your audience that's listening. And I promise you, I don't care what problem you got coming along, relationship problem, financial problem, health problem, career problem, it doesn't matter. This question will help you fix whatever problem you got. And here's the question I asked myself when my banker cut me off. I said, Jay, who do you know that can help you with your problem. And by the way, these people going around saying every problem's an opportunity. I wanted to throw up. I didn't have no opportunity. I had a problem. Couldn't fund these 2 deals. I immediately thought of Jeff Blankenship, a good friend of mine, and Carol Joy's that lived in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time, and he was investing in real estate. And I called him up. I knew Jeff could help me with my problem, and I told him what had happened. He said, "Welcome to the club." I said, "What club?" He said, "The club of losing your line of credit at the bank." I said, "Well, how are you funding your deals?" And he told me about private money. He told me about self-directed IRAs. And so here's the answer to your question. You know, fear of loss is a greater motivator for me than hope of gain. And I was getting ready to lose over $100,000 in potential profit on those 2 deals. And so I didn't want to lose that money. So I sought for a better way and quicker way to fund my deals. He told me about private money, and I put my program together as to what I was going to offer potential private lenders. And so I just started asking people for their help to spread the word that I was going to open up my real estate investing business by referral only, paying really high rates of return. And so then I found and discovered something very interesting, Bill. The money started chasing me. You know, I've never asked anybody for money. I've never pitched a deal. And how have I done that? It's real simple. I put my private money teacher hat on. And I start teaching people how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely. So that's how, and that's a very long answer to a very short question. And that was, your question was, how did I push through? I had a powerful enough reason to take action. And so really the question is, if someone's not taking action, maybe your reason's not powerful and big enough.
Do you feel like inside of that, so newer real estate investors or people that are trying to scale their business, if they're comfortable, then they're not pushing enough? So like I've seen people that are broke. I've seen like homeless people. I've seen people that quit their job before they were ready. It'd be really, really successful, kind of because their back's against the wall. It sounds like yours was a little bit as far as like finding the money for this deal. Do you feel like that is something that people like newer investors or people that are trying to grow should put themselves into a situation like that? Is it needed, or does it make sense? Like I see it all the time. Like the people that are backs up against the wall, they don't have a plan B. They do really, really well because they have to figure it out. And other people that are comfortable, a lot of times they just don't reach the level of opportunity that they have in front of them. So how do you feel about that?
I see it all the time. Same thing. In other words, what's the pain? What is the pain that is pushing you? Like I've got a number of my mastermind members, the majority of them actually end up quitting their day jobs and going full-time into real estate, just like your members do as well.
Yep.
And my guess, Bill, is your members are the same type of members that mine do it. And here's the pain. For example, Crystal came into my world. She was making really, really good income. I mean, multiple 6 figures in income. She was a occupational therapist, and she was overseeing multiple clinics. So her pain was not making money. She was making a lot of money. Her pain was she had no life, and she was working 70 hours a week, and she promised herself she'd never drive her kids through fast food to feed them fast food. And there she was at 8:00 at night with the kids in the back seat, driving through fast food. And she made a commitment right there that I'm going to change my lifestyle. I'm not going to be owned by this company. And that was her pain. That was her motivation. Chris and Caroline Cornett, same thing earlier this year. He's making really, really good money. But the pain was he wasn't happy. He wasn't running his life. Somebody else was running it. So it comes back to, what is it that you want to change in your life that's really motivating you to make a change?
So if somebody's comfortable but wants something different, like what's the step that they take? Like because it's really hard for me to say, oh, hey, your pain has to be good enough. Like, where can they find that kind of motivation, do you think, to actually like get out there? Because I think that's what stops a lot of folks is they know what they want to do. They have this kind of like vision for the future, but they're comfortable and they're kind of like, it's not big enough yet. So like, where do you search? Where do you pull from? What would be your recommendation to somebody like that? Has a good job, everything's kind of good. Like, how do they get to a point where they want to get into real estate? They're just a little bit worried or stuck. Like, where do they go?
Well, that sort of cues me up to share this. For the very first time ever, 2 weeks ago at my live event, I've had the attendees walk through an exercise. And this took about an hour to go through this exercise. Everybody was filling out the booklet themselves. And the name of the exercise is called Calculating or Discovering Your Freedom Number. And I'm sure you've heard of freedom numbers. But I just didn't have them calculate a freedom number. I had them calculate the freedom number, and then I had them walk through exactly how much private money you need to raise by math, a math formulation. How much private money do you need to raise in what period of time in order to achieve the income that you want for the way you want your life to look? But the very first part of that exercise actually paved the way through this exercise. And that was, I had them write down, and I mean, this took about 20 minutes or so. I had them write down in detail exactly what do they want their life and their week to look like. And it's just as important about giving and what you want your purpose to be as it is about, what everybody talks about, the time off, the vacations, all that stuff. That's really not what people want. People want the flexibility. And so and I got just amazing feedback on this exercise. What they discovered in the feedback after going through the exercise is most of the people in the room really didn't know what they wanted. How can you accomplish what you want if you don't know really what you want? And you really don't know what you want, and you really don't know what your purpose, what you want your purpose to be until you have reduced that to writing. And I don't mean on a laptop and a Word document. I mean pen in hand on the paper, writing it out. And so once they had that crystallized as to what they want and what they want their purpose to be and how they want to give back and what they want their week to look like for example, one thing that Crystal wanted when she quit the occupational therapy career is she wanted to work her butt off Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and she wanted to have her children time with the homeschooling Thursday, Friday, and playtime Saturday and Sunday. She wanted her life back with her kids. She's a single mom. And so that was her motivation. So it was so interesting, Bill, for me to watch the light bulbs come on in my attendees' heads as to really what they wanted their life to look like. And once that is determined, now I've got a reason to go out there and work that's much bigger than just putting food on the table and, making the mortgage payment.
I love that. I think that's a great exercise that all of you that are listening right now can do immediately. You can think about what you really want your life to look like. And there's like a 7 levels of why. I don't know if you've ever done this exercise, Jay, but
yes.
I couldn't figure out for years why I did what I did. Like, why do I keep going? Why do I want to like build this big company? Why do I want to speak at all these events? Why do I want my event to have 5,000 people? Why do I need my mastermind to be so big? Like, my wife asks me all this all the time. She's happy to just kind of like read a book or sit around and sleep till noon. And I'm like, I'm up at 5:30. Like, I do more before the sun comes up than most people do all day. Right. And so she's like, why do you do that? Like, well, I don't understand. Like, isn't just enough? Like, why do you have to? And so she'll ask me that all the time. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, my lands, Bill. You finish, and then I got to share.
Well, I will. A couple of years ago, I did an event for my high-level entrepreneurs, like 2 years ago, and we went through this exercise. It was a like a destination event. There were 12 of us there, 12 like partners. So there's probably 20 total people there. We had a neuroscientist come in and talk to us about the way the brain works and things. And we did some breathing and cold water action, all the interesting stuff. Damon John was there for half a day. And so like we did this 7 levels of why. And I got to a place where I saw a stadium of people. It's like finally got down. I'm like, I'm afraid to die. I'm afraid to die. And then I was like, why am I afraid to die? It's just like, why? And so you ask yourself why, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper each time. And then I saw this like stadium, and there's a bunch of people like partying in the parking lot and like, tailgating in the stadium, and it's full of people, and like nobody can get into the stadium. And it's like my funeral. Like there's a bunch of people there that are like, this guy, they're there to party for me. And I was like, I feel like I'm afraid to die without like helping enough people to fill the stadium. And it's a place I got to, and I was like, okay, well now when my wife asks me, I can tell her, like, this is it. Like, I feel like my life is to help other people to the point where I can fill that stadium. And I don't feel like I'm even scratched the surface of it. So I just keep going because I want to do that. Like that really excites me. It really gets me motivated and fun. And I think you're right. I think most people, like even before that, I was like, I don't know. I just keep going. I keep getting up. I like to do things. I like to travel. I like to meet new people. I like to do all this stuff, but it's like, why? And so I got to that place. So I think those 2 exercises are really, really powerful for you to sit down and try to figure out where are you going? What's the direction? And then like the deep rooted why, not the surface stuff. Like you put the picture of your family, you put the picture of like, some of these things that everybody in a mastermind does for the first event. Like that exercise is really powerful. It's like, she knows very clearly, like, I want to spend time with my kids. I want my life back. I don't want to work that much. I don't want to do fast food. Like this stuff it erodes how we feel. So I think that's incredible. Sorry, you had something. What was it?
Well, I love what you just shared. So you just said something, Bill, that immediately took me back to a conversation that I had a couple of years ago with a very, very dear friend of mine. And what you said was your wife, Julie, right? Julie?
Lucy.
Lucy. I'm sorry, Lucy.
That's okay.
So anyway, Lucy says to you, well, when is enough enough? So I was driving down McCabe Road with my dear friend Neil. And Neil's this kind of guy that just loves to ask these questions out of the blue. And so we're riding along. He's driving. I'm riding in his car. He said, Jay, I want to ask you a question. That always scares me when Neil is getting ready to ask the question. But he said, Jay, I want to ask you a question. I say, what's that, Neil? He says, when is enough enough? And I said, I think I know what you're asking, Neil, but clarify that a little bit more. What do you mean? He said, well, you're traveling all over the nation. You're doing, all this speaking. You're doing all these real estate deals. He says, and and I know you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. It's like, and he says, when I ask you when is enough enough, he says, Jay, how do you reconcile what the Apostle Paul said when he said to learn to be content in whatever station of life you are? I said, now I understand the question, Neil. And I said, here's the answer. Enough is never enough when it's not about you. Enough is never enough when it's not about you. Now, let's be totally transparent. Is part of what I do for me? Absolutely. I mean, it's human nature. I mean, like, when somebody says, well, I did something for somebody and I expected nothing in return. Well, that's a lie. Of course you're expecting something in return. It may not be coming from them, but you're expecting joy. You're expecting to feel good about what you did for them. So since enough is never enough when it's not about you, the question, it comes back to when you're doing that exercise of really what do you want your life to look like? Well, a big part, joy comes from serving and for doing other people. That's why you're so happy, Bill. You have determined what your purpose is, what you want your legacy to look like. And that's why, by and large, you're a happy guy most of the time because you've determined what that purpose is. That's where real joy comes from. Real joy doesn't come from being served all the time. In fact, that's like downright depressing. But when you're out there making a difference and giving back, that's where the real joy comes from. So enough is never enough when it's not
I love
all
that.
about you.
Yeah, I love that explanation. And you're right. And that's a perfect way to say it, because like honestly, the times where I'm not that happy, especially at work, is when I feel like we're not doing enough to make a big enough impact to fill the room, to get like, we have such a good product. It's like more people find out about it. Like, come over here. I want to tell you something. I want to help you. And that's when I get frustrated and a little like aggravated. It's like, why, how are we only selling like 200 tickets to this kids event? We should be selling like 500 tickets. And after the event, everybody's like, how come I didn't know about this? I would have been there. It's like, oh my gosh, I have the biggest megaphone on the biggest mountain possible. So yeah, you're right. Enough is never enough when it's not about you. I love that. I wrote that down. I'm keeping that. I'm stealing it. I'm going to put Jay Connor next to it so that I always give credit where credit's due, unless I absolutely forget who told me that. And I say, somebody did. I don't remember who it was, but it wasn't me. So Jay, we met inside of a mastermind. We called the Family Mastermind. We got together on a couple calls. We were like introduced by someone. I just really loved talking to you, and I feel like your heart was there. Your accent helps; it's really nice and Southern. Everybody on the podcast is going to love it, I'm sure. And so, doing some things together recently has been a lot of fun. We just jumped into conversation here. You've talked a lot about private money on the show already, just from the beginning. Why is that so important, and what has it done for you in your business and your life?
So private money has had the biggest impact on mine and Carol Joy's and my entire team's business. And it's done so many things. I've already shared the story as to how it came about. It was out of necessity. But here's one thing that it did. When I first started using private money to fund my real estate deals, here's what happened. It was the beginning of 2009. And a lot of you listening to this show will recall what was going on in 2007 and 8 and 9 with all the foreclosures that were going on. And of course, all those foreclosures were happening for a very different reason than foreclosures that have been happening since COVID. And of course, we know what it was. There's a lot of people got mortgages that should have never gotten mortgages. So here's what's really funny or interesting. I learned about private money. I'm able to raise $2,150,000 in less than 90 days. And by the way, I don't share that to brag. I just share that to make a point. You can raise private money very, very quickly without ever going around and chasing it. And so I raised a couple of $1 million in those first 90 days. And here's what's interesting. Our business, mine and Carol Joy's business, tripled in 2009 over what it had been. And here's why. I had the funding available, and the vortex that was happening simultaneously is the banks weren't loaning money. Now you had all these foreclosures. Now stop and think about it. All these foreclosures are happening. The banks aren't loaning money. So you had to have your own money, or you had to have your own funding in order to buy those foreclosures. Well, now I ended up having, all this funding. So I was able to pick and choose which deals I wanted to do. I was able to close quickly. When you use private money, I make all my offers. I can close in 7 days. When I'm talking to a FSBO, bank-owned properties can't move that quickly, which, by the way, Bill, I haven't bought a single family house in the multiple listing service since before COVID because there was no inventory. It's all that we buy from for sale by owners. But anyway, I was able to triple our business because we had the funding. And, yes, I practice and I teach creative financing and subject to the existing note and all those creative finance strategies. But at the end of the day, at least in my real world, most of the deals require the cash. Most of the real estate, whether you're talking multifamily or you're talking single family or whatever it is. So what did it do for our business? It tripled our business the very first year. It allowed me to scale my business. And more importantly, private money put me so much more in the driver's seat of my business. Because in this world of private money, and what I'm getting ready to say, it takes a little bit to get your mind wrapped around it. Not you, Bill, but real estate investors that are new. And that is, we make the rules. You know, when I was borrowing money, when I was borrowing institutional money, they made the rules. But I make the rules. I set the interest rate. I set the length of the note. You know, that doesn't happen with institutional money. And now, let's be totally transparent on something here. Don't miss the point. You know, there's three categories of where you find private lenders. I call it first your own connections. Who do you have connections with? Who's in your cell phone, your email list, your social media, et cetera. Then I call it your expanded market. How can you grow your connections very, very quickly? And then thirdly, our existing private lenders. My members actually get access to my private lender data feed. We get every private lender loan closing in the nation in the software. But here's the deal. Those existing private lenders, they already know the rules. They already know the deal. Here's what's interesting. We have 47 private lenders right now that are funding our deals. 47, and they range from people that's got $50,000 to people that's got over $1 million that they invest with us in our deals. But here's what's interesting. Not one of those 47 private lenders that are funding our deals, and by the way, we're not talking institutional money or hard money in this conversation. We're talking about borrowing money from individuals, human beings just like you and me. Not one of those 47 private lenders that are funding our deals had ever heard of private money, never heard of it. Not one of them had ever heard of how they could use retirement funds to be a real estate passive investor and how they could move retirement funds over to a self-directed IRA company and then actually loan the money out. None of them heard about it until I put on my teacher hat, right? So that's the key right there. You get to make your own rules when you are sharing the opportunity with people that have never heard about this world of private money.
You know what's nice about having you on my podcast, Jay, is I feel like I'm the wife in the conversation of now. I've been saying this for so long that hopefully people that listen to my show will finally say, okay, like Jay came in here and talked about private money. I need to go raise private money. Bill's the one who's been talking about it for years and years and years. I remember giving a presentation in 2017 of the reason why I scaled my business was the fact that I figured out how to raise money. And it's a game changer. Like you can walk in and you can buy the house as a wholesaler. If you can't wholesale it, you can buy it. You know, there's so many different options. It just gives you so many options. And like you said, you teach creative financing. Well, if you know how to have that conversation with a lender, then if the homeowner is getting a bunch of cash back, you know how to turn that into an owner carry and talk to them like they're going to be a lender. And it's just, it opens so many doors, so many doors.
Well,
and
if I may, Bill, if
anything.
it's okay with you, if I could share a quick little story that makes the point of what you just said, and
Perfect.
that is having the private money ready to go. So five weeks ago, now follow the timeline here. Follow the timeline. 5 weeks ago, we have an owner of a oceanfront condominium. Oh my lands, oceanfront, top story, right here in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, that responded to one of our Google ads. And so he goes into Google, searches for whatever he searched for, sell my house fast, whatever, buy my house fast, whatever. And so he comes into our funnel. He comes into our marketing funnel. His name is Brian. Comes in our marketing funnel. And here are the two layers of motivation. Number one, this beautiful oceanfront condominium is inherited. Both his father and his mother passed away. He doesn't even live around here, right? He doesn't even come here to Atlantic Beach. So it's an inherited condominium, luxury condominium. Secondly, it's going to sale at the courthouse as a foreclosure 3 weeks after, or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks after he's contacting us. So time is short. So we talked to him and we made the offer. $425,000. Of course, this is after he told us what he asked for, and we negotiated. So we went under contract to buy it for $425,000. And here was my offer: close all cash in 7 days. All cash in 7 days. Well, the house was already, the condominium was already vacated. Anyway, so bought it for $425,000. Check out this renovation or rehab budget, Bill. $11,000. That doesn't happen. That's
nope.
That does not happen. But it happened this time. Interior paint and a little bit of sheetrock. And to boot, it comes with about $50,000 of luxurious furniture already in it and paintings. So I buy it for $425,000. I put it on the market. By the way, I'm getting ready to give a big tip right now, and then I'm going to bring it around and make my point. So we put it in the multiple listing service, Bill, last Monday in the multiple listing service with our beautiful music video. We always get a beautiful music video and 50 professional pictures, drone footage, the whole 9 yards. And we put it in there under coming soon. We always do this. Big tip, folks, big tip. In the multiple listing service, we put coming soon on Monday. I want to build up demand, and then we're going to go active Friday morning. So that's what we did. We went active Friday morning. I want appointments lined up. Thursday night, I had 2 all-cash offers, sight unseen. I turned those offers down. And then by Friday evening, I had 3 all-cash offers, 2 of which was above list. I had it in the multiple listing service at $595,000. Bought it for $425,000, $11,000 rehab, renovation. And in the multiple listing service for $595,000, I accepted $628,000 Friday night while Carol Joy and I were at dinner at Soundside Restaurant. So that's 28, that's 5, that's 33,000 over list. Here's the point of the story. I would have never gotten that deal if I hadn't had private money and I could have paid all cash and closed in 7 days. That's why private money is the golden key. You can't make money in slow motion. You got to move. You got to move fast. And so that's just a recent example of why private money got the deal.
Yeah, when I look at that deal, there's probably $150,000, $160,000 in there for you. Is that right?
After realtor fees, so I'm gonna pay my realtor $30,000 in realtor fee, and happy to do it.
Yep. So after all that, let's just call it $150,000, $160,000. So this is not HGTV math. This is real math. So we take out some fees and costs, and cost of money and closing costs and all that stuff. And then, so what I look at, if you don't have the money, here's what happens. Jay gets the deal under contract. He goes, I got to wholesale this deal. I got it under contract for $425,000. He's going to turn around. He's going to find somebody who has money. So he's going to go to somebody like Jay, and he's going to say, he's going to come to me. He's going to say, hey, Bill, I got this deal for, I'll give it to you for $475,000. And I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'll give you $455,000 or $460,000, and I'll do the deal. I'll put the $11,000 in. I'll put it on the MLS. I'm not sure. There's not a lot of other people that can close this quick. You got to close it in 5 days. I can do it. He makes, $25,000, $30,000, maybe $40,000, maybe $50,000, but he doesn't make $150,000 just by knowing this one trick and this one tool, right? And so you can squeeze all the juice out of the deal, really good ones when they come across. Happened to me so many times. I can't even count how many of the stories I have, just like you, Jay. I have a rehab budget of, the only thing I had to do was clean the carpets of a house. It was 1 year old, new construction, and the lady legitimately cleaned it better than my cleaner could have cleaned it. I was like, I just better put some lines on this carpet, so just to make sure. And I was like, I have to spend a couple $100 on carpet cleaning or something. I just feel bad putting a sign in the yard and not doing anything. And we made $70K on that deal, and they just were upset because they're building an apartment complex behind their new construction building they said they hated. But when I put the sign in the yard, the next door neighbor called me and told me their fence is on their yard, and they started screaming at my realtor. And so, there's a little Hatfield and McCoy fight going on between the two houses. They had plenty of money. They went and bought another house cash before I closed. So I have so many of these stories, but we, just like Jay said, we had to have the money.
That's
Jay,
right.
what is a tip that you have about raising private money that nobody listening knows? What are some secrets, some of the things that you can share, you're willing to share, that is changed the game for you raising private money. You teach your people. Like, what's something that a lot of people don't know, and maybe I don't know?
Well, I don't think there's anything I can tell you about private money you don't know, Bill.
I don't know about that.
but I will say this. I'm getting ready to take a risk, Bill, because you might not agree with me. I don't know, but I'm sure you'll let me know if you do disagree with me. So let me tell you something that just drives me crazy. In answer to your question, what can I share about private money that maybe a lot of your listeners have heard otherwise or don't know? Here's something that drives me insane. Every time I hear it, I want to go just run my face and head into a brick wall because it's the most stupid thing I have ever heard in my life. I hope I didn't offend you. But it's the most stupid thing I've ever heard in my life is an educator, guru, whatever, will get up on the platform and here it comes, quote unquote, just get the deal under contract. The money will show up. Or they will say, if the deal's good enough, the money follows the deal. I want to throw up every time I hear that because like my first question in my mind is, where is it going to show up? Now, if you're a wholesaler and you got a buyer's list, you already got the money lined up because you got a buyer's list. But that new real estate investor out there that is convinced that I get my lead flow coming in and I get that thing under contract, the money's going to show up. I've heard it so many times, Bill, that I share this and I see the heads bobbing. I see the heads bobbing in the audience of, boy, how did I buy that hook, line, and sinker? You know, I was a guest on a podcast, Bill, it's not too long ago. And the host and I were having this part of the conversation. I said, why in the world do they say that? Why do they say that? He says, I can tell you why they say that, because they're selling a course on how to find deals and get them under contract, and they're not going to tell you nothing about how to get the money. So here's a long answer to answer your question. What is the number one tip I could share when it comes to raising private money? Number one, get the money lined up. There's always deals. There's always deals. I mean, why do I want to stress myself out and go get something under contract and I have no idea how I'm going to fund it or, you know, maybe what my exit strategy is? So the first tip I would share is, now that doesn't mean you can't start practicing if you're brand new, talking to FSBOs and, you know, and getting that skill set down automatically. But the worst time to be raising private money is when you need it for a deal. Is the worst time to be raising private money, because let me tell you something, desperation has got a smell to it, and desperation stinks because other potential private lenders, they can tell if you're desperate, you know. That's why I share my experience and share the advice of, don't ever talk to a new potential private lender in your own connections and in the same conversation have a deal that you're looking to be funded, because now you already sound desperate and, you know, you didn't even mean to. Okay, so now I'm taking the risk and I'm asking the question, Bill, do you agree or do you disagree?
So as you were setting it up, I could tell where you were going, and I really do agree. And I love that you talked about the wholesalers having a buyer's list where they actually have the money. It's there. And so I would say there's probably in today's market, if the deal is really, really good, like, you know, 50 cents on the dollar type deal in where we are in the marketplace, and you know the avenues to wholesale that deal, like maybe on Facebook Marketplace or in your local RIA or something like that, you're plugged in. But you're exactly right. Like, so I think that could work if it's a really, like, your condo deal, probably if you send it over to, you posted it on Facebook Marketplace, you might be able to sell, but in 7 days it'd be tough, you know. Like, those people got to have cash. And they got to be investors. They got to be able to move. Maybe the right realtor might be able to help you. But if you don't have those connections ahead of time, I totally 100% agree with you. And I agree. I hear this a lot too. And it's like, not really. Like, you got to find the money and the deal. Like, you got to have had those conversations. I love your comment on desperation. So I say this a lot. the timeline at which you need the money, the price of the money just starts going way up. So most of the private lenders, I'm sure of the 47 that you work with that had never heard of private money before, they're not sending you a wire in 3 days. You're having conversations with them. They're starting to understand how it works, getting comfortable with it over time. And it's something that you built over time.
Oh,
and so for me, I talk about these 3 different types of investors. You have like the one that is like their money's in the stock market, or a CD or in the bank, you know, they're like, I never heard of this. And so they move slow, but their rates are really low. They don't even know what a point is. You say points, they're like, say what? Like, is it a scoring system? And then there's the middle investor who's probably in the stock market, maybe manages their own money. Maybe they've done a loan before, maybe not. Maybe they're like a landlord and they might be doing private money for the first time, where they're used to making, 6 to 8%, maybe a little bit more in the market. And they can move a little faster. They can make decisions a little faster because they manage their own money, but their rates will be a little bit higher. And then you got people like me and probably like people like Jay, when Jay, does a loan, if he does, it's like, oh, you need the money like this week? No problem. I can give it to you, but it's going to be a pretty sharky deal, like it's going to be points. It's going to be interest. I'm getting monthly payments. Like there's going to be an extension fee. There's going to be a whole lot of stuff that I write in. I want first position. I set the terms. And those are, but you can get the money like today. Like I'll wire you money today if you make the deal good enough for me and it makes sense and I don't have any other opportunities with my cash right now. So that's like the 3. So I totally agree. When you got the property under contract, like, like if the clock starts ticking, you stink of desperation. Totally agree with all that. So this is the follow-up question that I have to that, because I see where most people get stuck. If I don't have a deal, if I've never done a deal, or I've never raised private money and I don't have a track record, how do I have a conversation with somebody about raising money? Shouldn't I have the deal first?
Great question. So there's 2 answers. And really the question that I'm answering is, I'm a new real estate investor, never done a deal. Who in the world is going to loan me money? Who's going to loan me money? And I've never done a deal. So here's the answer. The first answer is, and this is me as the new real estate investor talking to a new potential private lender. Why would I loan you money? That's the private lender talking. Why would I loan you money? Never done a deal. Here's the answer to that question. If I don't pay you, the property does. Now, what in the world does that mean? If I don't pay you, the property does. What that means is, because we're going to borrow at a conservative loan to value, which is a maximum of 75%. Now I'm talking single family here. A maximum of 75% of the after repaired value. So there's going to be a 25% equity cushion. So if I don't pay the private lender, they get the property. They actually can make more money than the interest I would have paid. But we all know this fact. They don't want the property. I mean, that's why they're being passive. They want you to find the deal. They want you to oversee the deal. They don't want to mess with it. But that's their security. The second answer to that question, and this is critical, it's called leveraging your business partner or leveraging your relationships. So this is probably the most important advice I could give. And that is, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't have a relationship such as with Bill Allen and his team to pony up with and have a business relationship, have a coach that can hold your hand, well, guess what? When you're talking to a new potential private lender in your own connections, you can honestly say, my business partner has done 500 deals or 1,000 deals or 1,200 deals and has been working with private lenders since whatever year. And it's 100% true. I mean, if Bill Allen and his team are your coach, essentially he's your business partner because you all are working on real estate together. So that's really the 2 answers. The second one being leverage a relationship that's got the experience. And secondly, why in the world would you start in this business by yourself anyway? You need a Bill Allen in your life.
I love that. Let me add like one more thing that I see and what I did in the very beginning. And Jay, it sounds like you started raising money like after you had done some deals, which was probably helpful for you. I get this question a lot. So one thing that I tell people is look at most of the people that you raise are going to be talking to and raising money from in the very beginning are going to be people that know, like, and trust you already. So one thing that I say is leverage your other successes and experiences in other industries, things that you've done in the past. It could be the fact that where do these people know you from? So if they're having a conversation with you and are even open to the idea of investing with you, you have done well in the relationship somewhere. So for me, when I look at all my lenders, if I put all my lenders, single family, multifamily, like on a board in my office, they're in all different buckets. Some are from high school. Like we played soccer together in high school and we were like number 3 in the nation, very competitive soccer team. Or I played soccer with them in college, or they were in the Navy with me. One was my commanding officer at my test pilot squadron. He was also a lieutenant when I was an ensign at grad school. We were in grad school together. Then became my commanding officer. So he saw me in the military. I have many other guys that I served with that invest with me, and they saw me win in the Navy. I have people that early on in business have seen me in my business life doing well. So leverage that. I had a nurse come into our program who was like I'm a top nurse, but now I'm a brand new investor. I was like, look, you have to take that same trust and power from 28 years in nursing, you're a nursing coach, and take it over into private money and say, hey, I did really we have the trust there. For me, I was managing millions of dollars of money for the military and the government, like hundreds of millions of dollars, like foreign military sales for the H-60 to other countries. Huge project that I'm managing. And I'd say, well, if I can manage $100 million for the government, I'm pretty sure I can run a $100,000 rehab. And so these people are like, oh, okay, like I totally see that. Like you won over there. Why wouldn't you win over here? And so I think early on, that's like the third, I'll add like just a third layer of that is like, where have you won in the past and how do these people know you? And leverage that trust and transfer it to another industry where they know you're going to win over there.
I love that advice. And yes, I mean, case in point, I was very successful in the mobile home or manufactured housing business for years before I even got into real estate. So that's brilliant advice. Leverage
and people know you're a winner. Like Jay, those people you're talking to in the very beginning, they know you're going to win. So your confidence in a new industry and showing them how you're going to transfer trust from something you've done with them in the past to something that you're going to do with them in the future. I look back to my early investors, all those people, like they knew that I was going to win in real estate. It was just a matter of time. And so, having those conversations early on, it took me a while to figure out the private money game. I started with a 50-50 JV partner who put all the money in, and then he took half of the profits. And then I realized after 6 deals, I was like, I'm giving up a lot of money here. Like I'm doing all the work.
Bill, I'm surprised it took you 6 deals to figure that out.
Oh yeah. But I tell you what, it was just so easy. And I'll tell you, I think the challenge is, like you said, it helped me with some of the risk profile in the beginning. Like that gave me that, like, hey, but if we lost money, we were going to split the losses 50-50. He didn't take all the losses. So that's the agreement we had. But, I was like, hey, okay, there's somebody else that's going to look at this deal. He was in the 7-figure flipping mastermind with me. And so for me, it was a good deal for him and a good deal for me. I wouldn't do it any different way. Like I had to learn, I had to understand that. I had to like come to the private money game when I was ready. And it didn't take me long. That was a few months. It was about 3 or 4
right.
months.
Well, you just said something that's very, very important. I mean, you didn't say it, but you inferred it. So I just want to make sure that everybody heard it. And what you inferred was your private lenders or your investors in your deals, they're really not investing in your deals. They are not loaning, really. They're not investing. They're not loaning money in your deals. They are. But they're really what they're doing. They are investing in you.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. They're investing in you.
Yep. I 100% agree with that. So, hey, for everyone that's listening, we jumped right into it today. Okay. And I wanted to give, Jay has got so much knowledge and information. Like when he talks, I'm like, I must have read his book, done his course. Like we are almost like just totally in sync when it comes to raising money. Like when we were talking offline, it's very much, we use a lot of the same skills, a lot of the same like talk tracks. Like it's naturally relationships and taking care of people and just showing up. Like he has the private money coach, right? And like coaching the people on how their financial plan and where their money is right now. And I absolutely love it. So I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time on Jay's background, all the houses he's done, all those things. I would recommend right now you go check out his podcast. You go check out his social media. You go follow Jay if you want to learn all of his background, like what, how he started in real estate, all of that stuff. Just every show has got that in the beginning. And honestly, it takes 30 minutes to get in the meat potatoes of what we want to teach you. So hopefully this was really valuable for you today. You saw the power that Jay could bring, the skill set that he has in raising private money, doing deals, taking care of people, and you go follow him, you go check out his show, you find a way to kind of learn more about him if you're interested, and that's the path for you. So Jay, before we go, like what are some ways that people can do that? What's the name of your show? What are some areas that they can kind of go check you out?
Sure. Well, I'm so excited to be here on your show, Bill, because I just literally finished recording on video, hot off the press, my brand new 7-day private money challenge. And if it's okay with you, I would love to tell your audience about how they can get into the challenge. And really, I mean, you're going to check out Jay Conner big time in the 7-day private money challenge. So first of all, just go over to www.privatemoneychallenge.com. Imagine that, privatemoneychallenge.com. And what it is it's 7 days video series. When you enroll, you'll immediately receive the first 15, 20-minute video. And then every day, the next 6 days at 10 a.m. Eastern time, you'll get the next one. And so I intentionally made these videos only 15, 20 minutes long to where it's really digestible. And I'm telling you, if you want to raise private money, I pull the curtain back. I'm not holding anything back. And I give you all I can 7 days in a row. Whether you've already raised private money or you've never raised any private money, God has blessed me with a gift. I promise you're going to understand exactly everything that I'm talking about. So privatemoneychallenge.com. In addition to that, my show, my podcast is called Raising Private Money with Jay Conner. So whatever your favorite platform is, iTunes or whatever, Spotify, just go in there and just search for Raising Private Money. That'll bring you right there. I have amazing people come on my show, like Bill Allen, and we talk about private money and how they raise private money. And so, and by the way, in the Private Money Challenge, not only are you going to learn how to raise private money, but I promise you, you're going to have a lot of fun. Because if I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it.
I love it. How did you get privatemoneychallenge.com? How do I not own that? I have tried to buy like every domain around stuff. Have you owned that for a long time, or do you just get it recently?
No, I just got it a few weeks ago because I just finished my funnel. So since Bill Allen didn't have it, it must be a God thing.
I just bought 20 domains this morning. So I don't like fully collect them, but I'll buy them for at least a year with it when I have an idea, and then a lot of times I'll release them after a year and not keep paying for them. But like, because oh man, I went in my GoDaddy site and I had like 50 in there that I was like, I'm never going to use these anymore. That idea is gone. So I just go like, don't auto renew, and I just release them back to the wild. So.
I just discovered something else you and I have in common. I have got so many domain names that I've never used and I probably never will use. But like privatemoneysecret.com, I got that one. I've never used it.
We might need to do a trade on that. All right. Well, hey, Jay, I appreciate you spending the time with us. And I love doing these shows, meeting some really cool people, and just getting to know you over the past few months has been really fun. I really am blessed to know you and get to know you. And honestly, I haven't jumped into that like real estate program for a long time in that mastermind, and kind of been doing my own thing. And it's just been really kind of breath of fresh air to meet people that have very similar interests, very similar values. And it's been really cool. So I appreciate you. And then everyone that's listening, we have our 7-figure runway open. So go to 7figurerunway.com. You can check it out. It's obviously our flagship program, kind of our core program to get you going, get you started, and get you off the ground so that we can get you up up in the air. So a lot of aviation references, Jay, in my community. We have runway, we have altitude, we have a Top Gun program, but our runway program is basically the place for people to go who are just getting started, whether they've done a couple deals, but they're not consistently doing like a deal a month to kind of get off the ground. It's like, they do their checklist, they run the engine up, they start doing touch and goes on the runway before they can get up to altitude. So that's what we do inside of our 7-figure program with me as the pilot. So 7figurerunway.com. Jay, I appreciate you being here, and awesome perspective on private money, your story, the mindset changes that people need to have, what's stopping them and holding them back, the levels of why, the really kind of vivid vision of your life. It's been really powerful. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next show.
Bill, thank you so much. I love your heart. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. See you guys.